everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of jakestake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and please subscribe. If you're listening to this episode, download this episode and all the other episodes, and don't forget to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. I'm thrilled to welcome back this content creator back to the podcast. As of this recording, his views on YouTube have over 737,000 times. He has 4.5 Instagram followers and 20,000 Twitter followers. So please welcome back my friend Drew to Disney Do back to the podcast.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me back on.
Drew, you're so welcome. I am so proud of you of all what you've done since the last time we spoke. I have seen you go leaps and bounds and gone face first to the content creation, and you have received a lot of praise.
Yeah, it's interesting just kind of like sharing content because like I've loved doing it since I don't remember how old I was, but like 2017 with arcades and then leading into Disney. So it's just been a part of my life. But yeah, it's fun to be able to do it now where people actually appreciate, the time and effort that goes into it.
And not only that, you also have the opportunity to be blessed by the Disney Company and
Yes.
the opportunity to go in that. And I got to say, once you have that pass, never let go on it. And I'm so proud of you that you're able to have that access.
Yeah, I've been working with, in full transparency for anyone who's listening. I guess I haven't done many interviews lately, kind of like talking about that. But I've been working with Disney's team since early February. And a big part of why I was willing to work with them whenever I reached out and when they actually responded, which I was a little caught back by, kind of surprised, but just about how quickly they responded, was just that I don't have to always be positive with my content. They just said we expect balanced content, which was really all I wanted. And while I genuinely am a very positive person, just naturally, that's just who I am, whether it's Disney, Universal, anything in life, movies, whatever it may be. There are times where I'm not going to be positive. We'll be probably talking about some of those topics today. Maybe, Tom Sawyer Island, Rivers of America, even, Disney Villain Show at Studios, which I saw recently, which I didn't love. And I just told them in person. So yeah, it's been pretty cool working with them and having some opportunities, and that'll probably just grow going forward, which is one of the main things I'm looking forward to.
All right. Before we enter the Magic Kingdom or any Disney worlds, there's a little land that just opened up to fanfare acclaim. You had the opportunity to go to Universal Epic Universe. You had the opportunity to visit the theme park. And before we get to each and every land that is there, I would love to know, what are your initial thoughts on the theme park?
I think my biggest takeaway after going to Epic for the first time was that's like everything I've wanted as a Disney fan from Universal's IP, if that makes sense. Because I always hate when people compare Disney and Universal because they're such different products. Disney is a very family-based company, very family-based offerings, whereas Universal can get away a little bit more with the thrills, and maybe it doesn't have to be as family-oriented. So I don't like when people compare it. But to answer your question, I was just blown away with how much I loved it and how good the theming was, how big the scale of the entire park was. I think I mentioned it in my initial review on YouTube when I first went, but I think just like seeing the helicopter photos of BioReconstruct on Twitter for so long, I wasn't like expecting the park to be as big as it was because we were seeing it from, the air for so long. Even just like the portals, the scale of the portals, I was blown away by. And at this point, I'm really just waiting for those annual passes whenever they may be, whether that's later this year or next year, because I definitely am excited to go back and experience that park more.
That is amazing to hear, and I got to give a shout out to BioReconstruct. Is amazing, and also some of our theme park as well, the Theme Stop Shop, like with all those updates that she provided. It's just absolutely amazing. They did the Lord's work.
Yeah, they. I would love to know like what the indirect result of them, Alicia and Bio, covering the park is on like the excitement for Epic. I mean, within our community, we totally understand that, but like, how far does that ripple effect go, and how much money has that made Universal? Because like I personally know people that aren't even like really aware of the park's existence. But I'm wondering how many thousands of families are aware of that park simply because of her videos for these 6 years, made possible with those aerial photos. That's something that I always think about with content, is the indirect impact of what creators do and how that actually impacts the park's bottom line over the years.
Absolutely. So let's get started. So we're going to go take the audience through one section of the park at a time. Let's start with the original concept, Celestial Park. So, and warning, guys, spoilers are ahead. I apologize, but however, it's been a month. It's as of this, we're dropping this episode in July, so it's been 2 months since Epic Universe. So let's talk more. So you guys you've already seen a lot of social media spoilers. So I apologize. Okay, so Celestial Park, holy guacamole. That is one of the best original concepts I've seen in ages, almost to Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, Celestial Park is fantastic. I think the only feedback that I really would have with it is that there's not enough shade in Celestial Park right now. The Kronos walking in, the Luna Overlook going to the left, going to the right, the original stores that they have on each side are awesome. The fountains literally connecting from the second you walk in to at the very, very back by the Helios. There's a little bridge in front of the Helios, which I would suggest checking out because you can see the entire park all the way from the back to the front. It's the fountains are just lined up all the way. Um, the music too. Before Universal did their the live stream for the park opening, they had some of the source music, like the actual audio playing before the live stream, which I had like 12 minutes of. I screen recorded it and I put it up on my second channel. But like some of that music already feels timeless in my opinion. And this park just officially opened, a couple of weeks ago. But I think just kind of circling back to like the whole idea of what Universal was aiming for with the putting the park back in theme park, like that is something that we need. And that's also one of my biggest takeaways is why I'm so sad about losing Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America. And like, I understand why they're doing it. It's a business decision. But when you're seeing your competitor next door put in this beautiful, connected part of the park, front to center, it's like a giant strip of just originality, the carousel, the Atlantic restaurant, the fountains, the Cosmos fountain, the hotel itself is even, original with that being like the main backdrop. And then, at Disney, you're losing this beautiful river, which kind of gets you away from everyone at the park. It feels like there's a big disconnect right now in the visions, which is okay at times because, I don't want these companies to be the same. But yeah, I do agree with you. Celestial Park is phenomenal, and I can understand why people like it.
Moving on to Super Nintendo World, fans got a taste of it when they visited Universal Studios Hollywood, but now it's basically here and it's expanded upon. It's following the Japan model of Super Mario and Donkey Kong. So I gotta say this: I am impressed. This land's actually better than California, if you're looking at from videos and all the social media I've seen.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that Super Nintendo World here is even better than Japan because there are a few little. This is where I'll go into a little bit of spoiler territory. I could be wrong here, but from what I was told, there's like a big screen at the end of Mario Kart. I won't necessarily say what happens there, but it's kind of a culmination of the ride. And here at our version in Epic, I think it's bigger and clearer. Also, the augmented reality technology on Mario Kart is supposedly better than Tokyo because it's been, 5 years since it opened in Tokyo, which just makes for a better guest experience. Having the clear AR, it makes it more real and kind of easier to understand the story of Mario Kart of what you're trying to do. Also, one of the main like indoor dark ride scene on the Minecart Madness Donkey Kong coaster. Over in Tokyo, the ceiling is like open, like it's literally just metal and curtains. Here, it's an actual like ceiling, like it's completely covered. So it's really not as bad here. And I also think that if I remember correctly from Alicia's videos, I think ours is 40,000 square feet bigger. So there's probably some more walking space here and there that I wouldn't necessarily know about until I go to Japan eventually. But yeah, Super Nintendo World it's one of the best lands I've ever been into. At nighttime, I think that I'd go as far as saying that at nighttime, Super Nintendo World is the best nighttime land ever created. That kinetic energy in there is unlike anything I've ever felt. The lighting, the music, the colors, it literally feels like you stepped into a video game. And I was just blown away walking in there for the first time at night. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I definitely think that's amazing to hear, and I definitely think we saw Link and Zelda and Ganondorf being in the glass ceiling. So I have a feeling that Link is coming, but we don't know if it's to Universal or if it's to Florida, Islands of Adventure, or to Epic.
Yeah, I think at this point they're kind of saying it's coming to Epic without saying it. This is like I feel like one of those times where sometimes in the theme park community these rumors will start because of an actual source in some cases, and then by the time they're actually announced, it's not a secret by any means. So from what I've been told, I think there's a couple of surprises coming to Epic in terms of entertainment and like maybe even a new hotel coming to that park in the coming years. But yeah, I think that Zelda coming to Epic seems like all but a lock at this point. It's just a matter of when do you announce it. And another thought I've kind of had with Epic is how do you balance your IP throughout the entire Universal Resort as a whole? Because when you're putting Zelda into Epic, which is already stacked, it's kind of just going to make people want to go there more. And how do you make the offerings at Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure good enough going forward so that people want to still go there, and it's not just, hey, all we care about is Epic. Because you have to balance out your people, you have to balance out your crowds and capacity, and make all these parks making money so you continue to invest. And I think that's what I'm really, really curious about with how good Epic is.
Okay, so we're moving on to one of the most surprising hits of the park, the legendary Dark Universe. I am, as someone that gets scared very easily, I'm so excited to go in there. You have that manor, and I've seen videos of it, that manor is absolutely incredible. And it finally gives Universal Monsters its shine. I gotta say, Igor is probably one of the best original characters I think that has been in a Universal property in the past decade.
Yeah, I fully agree. The voice actor, I think his name's Rama, Indian guy. He's just seems like a really, really cool dude from what I've seen with him on Instagram. But like his voice acting with Igor it's just ridiculous how he brings that character to life. Honestly, the whole cast for Monsters Unchained, I don't know who voices Victoria, but her line delivery with Victoria is amazing. And like you said, with the manor itself, like the way that land is designed, whenever you first walk in, you don't see the manor. Like it just feels like you're kind of walking through this little village, and like the graveyard is next to you, and then you turn the corner and you have like as if like the archway had crumbled, and because it's crumbled, that's what allows you to see the manor when you first walk in. It's brilliant. If I were to say, I think that the manor itself and kind of that, not Curse of the Werewolf in that area, that back corner. But like when you first walk in, when you're in that little village with the manor kind of foreboding over the entire land, I think that's kind of like Universal's equivalent of what we've seen with the Oriental Land Company do at Tokyo. It's that level. It's incredible. And I remember the first time I was there at nighttime, that was a lot of people's first time seeing the manor and that electricity light up at night. I was walking out of Monsters, and just the amount of people just literally standing there looking at the manor, that was an attraction on its own at that night for people, because it was just so cool, and seeing it light up, it's very special, that park at nighttime. The whole park is.
And speaking of special, I gotta say, those characters, the Frankenstein monster, the bride, Igor, the Invisible Man, oh my God, they're blowing out. They're blowing out, and I really hope they bring her back, Victoria. Those meetable characters are a next level.
I agree. I think that's also the entire park. Honestly, we'll talk about Isla Berk in a little bit. But like for me personally, the biggest thing I've seen with this park, just being on social media all the time, is the characters. I'm seeing more talk about the characters and the live entertainment and how alive and real this park feels lately than the actual rides themselves. Which, don't get me wrong, we've seen a ton of people talk about the rides, especially when they did it's crazy. They did their big media day almost 2 months ago when we were recording this, which is insane. Like, where's the time going at this point? But yeah, these characters are next level. These actors are extremely, extremely talented, and I think it makes it a little bit extra special that, like you said, this is the first time we've really seen these monsters have their moment, especially getting a proper budget.
And we've also seen like previews of like Jekyll and Hyde have his in that apothecary. The windmill and that fiery windmill with the monster home of the monster hunters is fabulous. All it's missing is a certain count, and maybe even on Halloween Horror Nights, a certain ghost with the most. We cannot say his name 3 times.
Yeah, I think we just got the announcement of Five Nights at Freddy's at Horror Nights, which I think is awesome. I think there's going to be a few more big IPs coming this year that people are going to love, connected between Hollywood and Orlando. It makes sense. You put the budget into one design, and you get to do it on both coasts, and people love it, right? But yeah, I'm very curious to see what they do with Dark Universe going forward, and kind of what the internal reaction is, like the internal data that they get, and if that gives them the confidence to do more there in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing is, I know that one of my all-time favorite shows is Beatles Graveyard Review. I know it would be interesting to see how it goes with Dark Universe and everything. Maybe a storyline that's in between what happened with Beetlejuice and maybe Beetlejuice is and like a power struggle. Maybe you could see Victoria targeting the monsters early, just as because the thing is that could be that story is a whole new other story of itself.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, what concepts are, probably being played as we speak, and then what gets greenlit. But yeah, one of my closest friends is a massive fan of Beetlejuice, so that's kind of how I was introduced to Beetlejuice as a character, and very fun character. I saw the the newest movie in theaters, and I love that I've been listening to the music on Spotify for a while now. But yeah, I do hope that it's kind of an interesting concept of like what happens if the monsters and it's some of the like the original like horror, characters. That'd be interesting to see what they could do with that.
Absolutely. We're moving on to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the Ministry of Magic. And that area, I was surprised by it because I had no expectations for that area, and people are very satisfied with that. But that ride is second level. I am so ready to ride that ride.
You and me both. Unfortunately, I've not been on Battle at the Ministry yet. I also, whenever I went to see Elyachar Podcast, which is the live show in that land, it went down about 3 minutes in, and we got dumped out of the theater, and they gave us express passes. So that's like the one world in this park that's evaded me so far. I haven't been able to experience the major things. I mean, I got to walk the queue for Elyachar Podcast. I got to see like the main pre-show, incredible. And I've heard the show itself is amazing with all the effects, the live sets. Like you said, everyone's been raving about Battle at the Ministry. I have seen more back and forth about like which ride is preferred, whether it's Monsters Unchained or Battle at the Ministry. But I'm someone who doesn't like to speak on things until I experience them. So I'm not going to necessarily make that claim yet until I've gone on Ministry a few times and can really appreciate what that attraction is. But yeah, you and me both. I'm super excited to go on that one, but part of me is okay with not going on it yet because it gives me something to look forward to. I think when you have a new theme park open and everyone got to, everyone out here in Orlando, they got to experience the entire park so quickly. It's kind of like, what's next? Whereas I still have to do those few big things in that lane. So I'm okay with it for now.
Finally, the runaway hit, I think, for everybody said, huh? Why is this included? And boy, oh boy, I am now ready to go to the Isle of Berk.
Yes, Isle of Berk. It's funny because going into the opening of this park, I expected that to be the objective best land just with how many things it has. You have the Toothless and Hiccup meet and greet, right? You have Astrid roaming, you have Rough Nut, Tough Nut. So you have those character interactions in that land. That was a major check, going in knowing that was going to happen. You have a live show, The Entrainable Dragon, right? We've seen that in Beijing. It got really good reviews. We knew that was going to be a win. And then you have all the food, which those cones have been so popular. And then you also have 3 rides. So like, I think sometimes when these companies call these areas lands, they aren't fully fledged lands. But in my opinion, Isle of Berk is maybe even the most objective, like best, most stacked offering wise land we've ever seen. That's the biggest land at Epic. It has the most to do. The theming is incredible. The music, even the music, like they have all the classic music just blasting in that world the second you walk into it. So I expected to love Isle of Berk the most going into that park. And I think that going into it, I was like, why aren't more people talking about this? Like you even said, early on when this park was first being developed, people were like, why is this here? But I think the Universal creative definitely knew what they were doing because just the character interactions alone, like I mentioned earlier, those interactions have been so incredible on social media. Just Toothless and the twins, it's unlike anything we've ever seen in terms of actual authentic character storytelling, in my opinion.
And Toothless and all those dragons have hit it out of the park. Those dragons, I think, are game changers.
Yeah, I even forgot about the little Boston robot guys. I know Rough Runners. I forgot the names of the other two, but the one that I always think of as Rough Runner. Yeah, they're so perfect, and the fact that they actually have all 3 of them, you don't necessarily have to do that, right, for a budgetary reason, but they did. On top of building an actual Toothless animatronic, which is like one of the most real interactions you could ever have between a character, like that Toothless feels real. Like that does not feel like a robot by any means. So yeah, I think that if Disney were to take notes from anything in this park, I would say the character interactions are where you take notes. And I mean, Disney's been doing a ton of research and development with their characters, but the BDX droids and Spider-Man over at Avengers Campus are all we've really seen. I just hope they do more going forward now, seeing the success of Epic.
And speaking of Epic, the success of Epic, we got to go back because fans are not happy with several things that Disney World has been doing. We got to talk about 2 important rides to a lot of generations that have been experiences that have been closed. We are losing Muppet Vision 3D, and it's tough to be a bug. They've had their final showings, and it's a piece of history that is gone. More sadly for me, it's Jim Henson's final piece of work before he passed away. And he is probably right next to Walt when it comes to creativity as an innovator. So how are these two closures affecting the theme park community, and especially more importantly the Disney community, Drew?
Yeah, I think with I'll start with It's Tough to Be a Bug because we saw it close in March, and again, I'm kind of shocked. It's almost been 3 months since that closed. Like we're going to be watching this Zootopia show before we know it at this point. I think with It's Tough to Be a Bug, I didn't see as big of a reaction with that, just because that show is. I feel like it's never had as strong of a fan base. Also, just the fact that I think the things that people were saying with that one, which is a valid point, is that was like the final It's Tough to Be a Bug representation in a Disney park, because we've already lost a Bug's Life, the California Adventure, for Avengers Campus. So like I can understand it from that perspective. But for me personally, It's Tough to Be a Bug was never something that I really cared about. I loved the original song at the end of that show because it was written by Kevin Rafferty, who is my favorite Imagineer. For those of you who don't know, Kevin Rafferty is, in my opinion, someone who should have been a Disney legend long ago. He did a Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster. He even worked on Muppet Vision, like we'll talk about, Toy Story Mania, Cars Land. He's done so many things, I can't even remember the amount of things that he's done. But yeah, I mean, It's Tough to Be a Bug. I didn't really see that much of an effect within the community. And I think just kind of people are waiting to see, is Zootopia a worthy successor, and how do they kind of fit that under the Tree of Life with it being such a massive icon of the park. On the other hand, then like you said, you have Muppet Vision 3D, where this is one of those things where it's the most vocal the community has ever been. Probably, like you said, because it's the final thing that Jim Henson was ever performing in as Kermit the Frog and also directing. Which, just like knowing that that's the final thing that he did and it's closing, it's not ideal by any means. Personally, I'm not going to pretend that Muppet Vision is one of my all-time favorite things. Like, I enjoy the show. I always laugh when I see it. I genuinely enjoy watching it. But I never really went out of my way to watch the show, maybe until 2020, whenever the parks reopened, because that's when I kind of started to grow a deeper appreciation for it in the recent years. But that's very subjective. That's me. Whereas a lot of people, they absolutely love the Muppets. Like, that is their favorite thing. And again, kind of like with A Bug's Life, this is like the final big Muppets representation we have, where they have their own area, from Muppet Vision to Pizza Rizzo and, Stage One store, which hasn't been open forever now, and Mama Melrose, and a little Christmas store with all the ornaments and stuff. So it's sad in the sense that, people have so many memories with this area, and just losing. I think the biggest thing for me personally, like, that I've been thinking about going into this closing in a few days as we're recording this, is like, with the Muppets taking over Rock and Roller Coaster, that's great and all. Like, I'm excited for it. I don't really go on Rock and Roller Coaster, so that'll even give me a local, like a diehard Disney fan, reason to go on Rockin'. But in the recent times that I've watched Muppet Vision 3D, in the recent weeks when I've been watching it, appreciating it, I've seen so many kids just laughing at the show because they can just have fun with it, right? But when you're taking away a show that a family can enjoy and you're putting the Muppets behind a ride with a height requirement, that's the problem I have with it. Also, the fact that Disney owns the Muppets and like this is their own IP, and I could be wrong here, but like this is the first time that I remember in recent memory where they're getting rid of such a popular IP. Like, the Muppets have more strength, in my opinion, than ever with social media popularity. Like, every time I post about the Muppets, they get a ton of engagement. People just react to it. So I'm kind of been going back and forth. Like, I can understand why you want to bring in Monsters, Inc. It's a very cost-effective, quick turnaround construction time. But at the same time, this is a perfect family show. And it's the last major area for your own intellectual property that you own. You have full control over. So that's why I really hope that, the fan theory that's been going around lately is just convert that whole little area around Rock and Roller Coaster into a new Muppets area once Disney Villains ends its run. That's the way to go, in my opinion.
I have to agree with you on that, because the thing is, with this outpouring, I got to say this, Josh D'Amaro and his team are better be looking at the metrics about be able to say, we got to repurpose Rock and Roller Coaster to bring the piggy fountain back in, to bring like some meet and greets. Like, it'd be fun to have Kermits and Piggies and Fozzie and Gonzo and Bunsen Beaker and Animal there as meet and greets, just with the puppets. I know it'd be a challenge for a challenge for the cast members to be friends with these guys, but these are American icons that have been around since the 70s, and for Kermit for more longer. So I think not having the Muppets there is a very it's upsetting. And I think not having they're like a warm comfort. I know that they starting to include permanent picking in the holiday show last year with the Christmas time and everything. But I gotta say this: if you want to satisfy your families and introduce more families to the Muppets, I one of these days want to introduce my Nash, Emery, and Kenny, my nephew and my nieces to them, because their hijinks are so iconic. And like you said, having a family area there with them, and like maybe bring the Muppet Show back, but like maybe a different studio, maybe an updated version of Muppets and Muppet standards, of course. Like, for example, we can have the big screen TV, but you got to keep standard for Waldorf, and you got to have Sweetums running around.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, you make a really good point. Like, I feel like something that Disney hasn't really leaned into as much as I would hope. Like, if I was at Disney, this is what I would be doing personally. You have social media where you have all these creators, even your own like accounts, like all of Disney's own social media accounts, and like anything they do, they have a direct way to promote it instantly. Also with this whole Fortnite investment with Epic Games, right? The amount of kids that play Fortnite and like the way to introduce Disney characters to them. And just Disney Plus too. Like there's so many things that Disney has, like the assets that they have in their back pocket, that I just feel like aren't being used in the correct way, at least yet. Like I hope that it'll happen one day. But like I've always thought of like, why don't you, like Bob Iger kind of teased it on that recent earnings call, but why don't you do a massive Figment push on all of your socials, make Figment aware from all of your worldwide fans. And then that gives you the confidence to give Figment a budget, because people are aware of Figment at that point. And like people are obviously aware of the Muppets, but like you said, there's kids in these new generations that with social media now and Fortnite and like the way the world has changed with how kids interact with, with anything now. Why don't you just go all out with the Muppets? And once you make them aware of the Muppets, they'll want to see the Muppets, and then that gives you the confidence to invest in them. And that's why, even though Muppets Courtyard is my favorite thing, like I said, like I can at least defend people who like Muppets Courtyard, because I sometimes I'll see the thoughts of people saying, well, Muppets Courtyard's been dead. Muppets Courtyard never has anyone in it. But that's Disney's own hand. It's Disney's own doing. Like Mama Melrose never had a great menu. It was very overpriced. The Christmas store has been closed. The Stage One Company store, it's been closed. Like there hasn't been a reason for the average family to go back there. But if they had converted the Stage One Company store into a meet and greet space with the Muppets, like you said, and done the puppetry there, that would go viral on social media. That gets people to go back into your area. That gets people to watch the show. And then suddenly you have life in your land. So I think it's Disney's own doing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. And also, you brought in Figment. I think Figment is important. But like, here's the thing. I'm surprised that Duffy has more awareness than Figment.
Yeah. It's I think but that's like a perfect example of how the Oriental Land Company in Tokyo has handled Duffy. When they realize that their fans are so reactive to Duffy as a character, as an icon of their parks, they kind of, I feel like, created that on their own by creating a character, making something that was likable and lovable, and then pushing it, and the fans reacted. Whenever the fans reacted, then you run with it, right? And now we're even seeing Duffy come to the Disney Adventure cruise ship that's going to be based out of Singapore. So like you said, that's just a perfect example of a character that is so beloved now. And I think that it's like people love Figment within our little community, our little echo chamber of what we see in here. But I just think that there's so many lost opportunities that they haven't done yet. And that's why I'm like, this is Disney. Like, how do you not do this? Like, there's no reason for the most creative, like they like to say, the most creative company in the world, or one of the most, to not do this stuff. And that's why I think there's so much frustration in this fan base sometimes. And that's why I'll never speak for other people, or, necessarily be like, oh, I don't understand why people are reacting this way, because like there is a lot of valid criticism. And that's why, losing Muppet Vision, to kind of wrap up our thoughts on this, it's like, it just feels like another punch to the fan base. If they don't do something with Muppet Vision that I feel like satisfies the fans, a little re-themed roller coaster isn't going to do it. Especially, like I mentioned earlier, putting it behind a height requirement where kids aren't going to be able to necessarily experience it, when right now you have this perfect show that, an entire family can smile and laugh at.
Absolutely. So we've got to start talking about smooth on to, because we have 2 new shows coming into Hollywood studios, and 2 of them, one of them is Villains Unfairly Ever After. I think this is just a warm-up for, like you said earlier, I think this is a warm-up for the Villains Land that's coming in near the end of the 2020s. And then also we have the revival of Little Mermaid: A New Adventure. We all know it's the Voyages of the Little Mermaid with new twists. So of these two shows, what hit you, or like what are you most excited about versus do we really need, and how imperative are these shows to Hollywood Studios live entertainment offerings?
Yeah, so I've seen both of these shows now. I've seen The Little Mermaid twice, and I've seen Disney Villains once. So I say that because, like, for me personally, I like to watch these shows multiple times to see all the details. Really appreciate the story before I like fully speak on it. But what I can say is, from those two viewings of The Little Mermaid, I am blown away with that show. Like, I'm not just saying that. Like, The Little Mermaid musical adventure is one of my all-time favorite offerings at Walt Disney World as a whole now, just from two viewings. That show is told from Ariel's perspective. So it's not just your typical reimagining of The Little Mermaid, where you're just retelling the story and we just happen to be there spectating what's happening. Like, everything that you see is from Ariel's imagination as she wants to be part of the human world. So everything you're seeing, from the stage design to the sets to the puppetry to the colors, that is what Ariel is thinking and imagining. And going into it, I appreciated the show a lot more because I knew that. And then I had the opportunity at the little media event that we did on May 26th for that show. I had the opportunity to talk to the show director, James, and I asked him, I'm like, am I understanding it correctly that this is from Ariel's perspective? And he's like, yes, I'm glad that you noticed that, because I put a lot of thought into making sure that all of this aligned with that creative vision that I had. And I'm not going to spoil the specifics, but that battle scene with Ursula and Ariel and Eric at the end of the show, just ridiculous. Like, I am blown away at how a person could come up with that and then make it a reality to where it's physical and actually can exist multiple times a day. So in my opinion, I would definitely say you have to see The Little Mermaid. On the other hand, like I said, I've only seen it once, but unfortunately, after my first viewing, I did not like Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After at all. I just didn't connect with the story for that show. I didn't think that the stage design, like, I don't think the stage design with how good it is connected to how empty it felt at times. There's three main performers. You have Cruella, Captain Hook, and Maleficent. And I'm not bashing the performers by any means. These people are extremely talented, but I just didn't connect to it. And also, I think a big part of it was how, whenever they first announced the show and continued to talk about, was like, these villains are breaking through the glass to plead their case on why they've been treated the most unfairly. And then, like, watching the final product, like, didn't deliver on that big wow moment of them arriving and like them shattering through the glass. Like, obviously they can't break through glass, but like, this is Disney. Like, there could be more physical effects done here to make it more of a wow moment, and that
like
never
walking
happened.
through the mirror.
Yeah, like there is one point in the moment at the show where I thought it was done well, where they used some layering of the set pieces when one of the characters leaves the stage. But that was the one moment where I was like, that was done well. The rest of them, I'm like, what is this? Like, I literally had a straight look on my face the entire time. I will say, though, there are a couple of really cool moments in the show that, like, I genuinely liked. Like, Maleficent has a moment, Captain Hook has a moment, and the original song, the Magic Mirror song, I absolutely love that song. So there are moments of the show that I like, but Disney Villains Unfairly Ever After, at least after one viewing, I didn't like it at all. So I'll definitely probably be spending my time at Little Mermaid.
Alrighty, thanks for letting us know. I gotta say, I'm a little disappointed to hear about the villains, and besides, I was looking forward to that show.
Well,
And I gotta
not to
say,
cut you off, but like, I don't want my thoughts to necessarily influence other people's thoughts. Like,
okay.
for example, I love Tiana's Bayou Adventure. A lot of people don't love Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So like, just because I'm saying it, I don't want you to like not be excited for it. You know, I think a lot of people are going to like that show because it has a character that they like in it, or just that's their style of a live production that they enjoy. So definitely give it a shot. Go into it with an open mind. But for me personally, I prefer Little Mermaid.
Will do. I think the thing that I got to see was like, there's not a lot of live performers because there's just three. We've seen live action versions of Hades pop up, Jafar pop up, the Evil Queen has a cameo. But like, where are they? Because the thing is, those six right there are and if you add maybe the Queen of Hearts, maybe, or Yzma, because she's having a breakthrough moment again. Those could have you could have added more performers.
Yeah. And like, in the show's storyline, like, I understand why they appeared digitally, but my mind also goes to, this is Disney live entertainment. So like, I don't feel a need to go to a theater and watch a show to see three big characters appearing on a screen. Like, in the sense of the story, it makes sense because they haven't been able to break through the mirror, and that's why they aren't appearing physically. But at that point, my mind goes to, it just feels like lazy writing. Like, I don't if I was to have 6 major characters, like you said, and I come down to the point where I'm like, oh, well, these characters can't appear physically because of our story, then I'm restarting the story. Like, it just was so awkward seeing 2 of these massive characters on a screen while I have this massive stage in front of me sitting empty for minutes. I just didn't like it. And I was like, damn, because like I really wanted to love it. Like I literally covered every single detail of the show since its original announcement. I covered everything on Twitter. I did multiple interviews on news stations about it. I was hyping it up. I was so excited for it. And then I walked out of the theater and I was like, that was it. So that was a rare moment for me to not like something that Disney does. I'm very self-aware.
Alrighty. So we got to talk about the Rivers of America's Tom Sawyer Island removal has had fans in an uproar, especially since we're losing abilities to have some quiet, because when you go to the Magic Kingdom, and I've been there twice, 1999, 2005, but I still see videos, I still see your coverage, I see Disney Unlimited's coverage. That's the reason why I see that's how I can get into the parks. And also shout out to Denny Sunderland as well, because I see her coverage. That I can still see. It is insanely like you should have had Rivers of America and Tom Sawyer were calming points. And now not having those calming points is really going to upset the balance, because it's going to be a sensory overload. And I know my young nephew, Nash, Emery, and Kenny, if they go there with or without me, I gotta say they could be their sensory overload. They need to have something that can counter that sensory overload.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny that you said that, because that's something I've been thinking about, is like Tom Sawyer Island and the Rivers of America. Like the big reason why I've always loved that area so much is like Magic Kingdom is always so busy and it has so many rides, attractions, the parades, the shows. It's a lot, like you said. At times it can be a sensory overload because it's the most visited theme park in the world. It has such a strong lineup of offerings. But when you step foot onto the Liberty Bell and you just pass Big Thunder Mountain, like that is your moment of bliss. Like in a sense, like you're in Magic Kingdom, but you're not in Magic Kingdom at that point. It's almost a theme park inside of a theme park with the Liberty Bell is how I view it, because it's so damn cool. Like I love it so much. Like you're just chilling on this like classic steam riverboat, going between all these beautiful trees. You have like the animals, the props, like as if it's real. And then you have the Walt Disney World Railroad, like right behind the river. It's just like, that would never be something that Disney would ever do ever again. Like that's just not the company that they are today. And that's why I'm like, we're losing this. Like, I don't want to accept that we're losing this. Like, I feel like I'm backwards on what most people feel. Like, I feel like most people right now are really, really sad about Muppet Vision. And they're like, well, I never go on the riverboat, so I'm not necessarily sad about that. Whereas I'm like, I'm going to be sad seeing Muppet Vision for the last time because I have so many memories there. But like when I wake up the next day and I'm going and taking pictures of the construction walls for Monsters Inc., like I'm just going to be excited for the door coaster within like 12 hours. Whereas with this, I'm like, oh, like I'm so upset about it, because I also think it's part of the fact that whenever I was documenting the construction of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, that like that bridge at the bottom of the drop on Tiana's, like that's bordering the Rivers of America. So I've just spent a ton of time in that part of the park. And even when you're not literally on the riverboat or on the island, I think you're still positively being impacted by these areas existing, because you can just hear the whistle of the boat or see the little rafts, going to and from the island. Even just the water is gorgeous. Like there's people to watch Happily Ever After every single night from that little bridge, because the reflection of the fireworks in the water and you can see the castle. It's just such a massive shift of tone for Magic Kingdom. And like, this is one of the biggest changes in the history of Disney parks, because you're literally taking away an entire environment, like a section, So like, yes, I'll be documenting the construction of Cars and Villains, like no doubt. And I'm sure the final products will be fun. Like the average family is going to love this area. There's no denying this. Like I can understand why they're doing it. It's cost effective. It eliminates all the maintenance costs for the river, all that old piping, next to the utilidors. I'm sure there's some safety concerns there. It's a very clear business decision where you're bringing in 2 massive IPs that are going to make a ton of money. Cars and Villains right next door. Like, how do you not do that, right? But as a Disney fan first, which is what I am, I've been a fan before I ever started creating content. I'm just like, man, this sucks. Like, I just don't want to accept that we're going to get a closing date and then this is going to be gone forever. And then I'm going to have to travel, to Disneyland to get any sense of that feeling. But I've just always loved that area so much because it's so calm and quiet, and it feels like that little corner of Magic Kingdom just is so far away from what the rest of Magic Kingdom is. So it's gonna take a while to get used to it, but I will say, just I know that I'm gonna love watching all that rock work go up for cars because it's right there in guest view, and that's what I love doing is following construction. So I won't deny that.
I know it's going to be interesting following construction. Speaking of construction, it's the following of this construction is going to polarize a lot of people because recently Disney announced that it will build a theme park in Abu Dhabi. The announcement divided the fan base. As someone who's covered Disney theme parks, what are your thoughts on this announcement?
Yeah, so I don't know. I think I have some very interesting thoughts on the whole Abu Dhabi thing. But that's also always because I remain to have an open mind with everything. Like, for example, like I mentioned earlier, like I love Tiana's by Adventure, but I'm very open-minded to the fact that not a lot of people do within this community. And just that, like, my thoughts aren't always going to reflect others' thoughts. Like, that's just how I am. Like, I don't care what people think. They're entitled to have their opinion. You know, like, there's so much back and forth about people's opinions. I'm like, guys, it's an opinion. Just scroll past it. Like, it's not that hard, right? But unfortunately, that's just the reality of social media. Everyone wants to have a voice. We don't always have to. Just be quiet. It's okay. But with this Abu Dhabi thing, I think is my biggest takeaway with this is that it's funded by Moral. For those of you listening who don't know what Moral is, they are like the leading entertainment provider over on Yas Island, which is in Abu Dhabi. There's already a lot of things that they've done over there. I think it's Ferrari World and SeaWorld, and Moral isn't doing Six Flags, but like even Six Flags, Qiddiya City. Like I just watched a video last night. Like there's a ton of growth and investment over there right now in regards to family entertainment. So my biggest takeaway was Disney isn't putting a penny into this project. And I think that that's where I kind of draw the line with this is because, you know, there's been a ton of talk about like human rights over there, you know, with the LGBTQ community, which me personally, I'm not a part of the LGBTQ community, so I can't speak for those people and how they feel. That's not something I'm ever going to do. So I've just been open-minded with hearing people's thoughts, and I've watched a lot of creators in that community and how they feel, just to remain open-minded about it. But I think like because it's funded by Moral, there's going to be a lot of positive impacts as a result of that. Like the main one is that there's going to be thousands of jobs created here in the United States, which is needed in this world right now. Like our economy isn't at its strongest point. So seeing jobs created here for years, which is going to allow people to live their dreams, to work for Walt Disney Imagineering, to develop a new theme park, like that is a win, right? And I also think like the fact that there's research and development costs being funded by this other company, which if there's no exclusivity agreements for this park, like those research and development costs could positively impact the Disney parks around the world because that money has already been spent by this company. So I think that there's just a lot of back and forth, which again, it's totally understandable. Like if someone doesn't want to go support this park because of the country that it's in, I get that. I'm not going to say that's stupid. Like I can understand that completely. I just think that there's a lot of misinformation too about these places. Like, again, I haven't been to Yas Island, so I can't speak on it. But I've personally talked to over 5 people in the recent weeks, and they're like, yeah, we've been there. And like the people online that are being very vocal about this that haven't been there, they're just wrong. Like one of my closest friends in this community, he went over there for the opening of SeaWorld, and he's like, that's the safest I've ever felt in the city. The service is incredible. The prices are affordable. There's another creator that was at the opening of this event, and he's like, yeah, man, like it's not what people think, you know? And I even think personally that there's misinformation right now about the United States with the current state of our country and other countries. It's just like what you're being told, what you're hearing versus what is the actual facts and what is the reality. I just think that people had a very emotional reaction to it, which again, and it's part of human nature to have emotions. But when I went into it, I'm like, this is going to probably be the best theme park ever created because it's pretty much got an unlimited budget in a sense. Like they just write a blank check. They're like, go spend $10 billion. And when you have the Disney branding connected to that, I don't see how it's not going to be the best theme park ever created. And also, I think the last thing I'll say about it is like, I hope that the Disney name being in this country, by the time this park opens, I hope things have changed over there to where people in the LGBTQ community can just feel comfortable going there at that point. Like that is my main hope for this park, is that there's no back and forth about, is it safe to go? Is it not? I hope that Disney being there makes changes to that country for the better so everyone can feel safe going to this park, because I think it's going to be that good.
100%, 100%. We can always make sure that we have to be safe about safety is imperative about that. And also on top of that, it's the Disney brand. Yeah. And just because you have an unlimited paycheck doesn't mean that Disney is going to be keeping a very close eye on its IP. Yeah. because if you put Mickey if you put someone like a Mickey on the uncompromising position, it's over.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's why I think about like, Bob Iger, like when Bob Iger was talking like very, very highly of this place. And I'm like, Bob Iger isn't going to go out here, even Josh tomorrow too. Like the interviews, they were like, yeah, this was a no-brainer for us. So like you said, you're not going to attach your name, and even like Josh right now trying to become CEO of Disney, like he's not going to go out here and do something that could affect his legacy, and Bob Iger's going to do something that could affect the company's legacy and profitability for something that's going to fail. Like also, I think kind of like as I'm talking and thinking about more thoughts, like I said earlier, there's so much development and growth in the UAE right now that it's inevitable that these companies are going to go over here, get their name attached to it, and get that impact. Like the fact that there's 500 million people that could go to this park within a few hours, it's just an absolute no-brainer from a business perspective. But yeah, like you said, I just think the fact that Disney's name is attached to this, I think that could work wonders for the country as a whole. And also the fact that this is a tourist destination too. It's not necessarily what you're going to see in other parts of the country. So I do think it'll be phenomenal. I think that that's the park that I probably will be at opening day at this point. It's just one of those things where, I'm used to it at this point with covering these parks on social media. I feel like no matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter how fair and balanced you try to be, someone's going to have a problem with it. So I've just accepted that that's going to be the reality when I cover this park for the next 5-6 years. Whatever people want to think about me, they can think about me. But this is an actual conversation like I'm having with you right now, where I've addressed the LGBTQ community. I've addressed that it's in another country. The fact that it's being funded by Moral, like I think that those are all things that you have to address when you're talking about these things. But yeah, it'll be very interesting because it's the first time that like we've really had a social media world where Disney is having a project built that's not being funded by them. Because like when Tokyo Disneyland opened, there wasn't social media yet. That was just, it kind of became like grandfathered in whenever it's like, oh yeah, that's just how Tokyo is. But we're seeing this project literally from its conception, from the genesis of the idea to opening, with everyone following it, everyone with a microscope on this project. And yeah, you make a really good point about, Josh and Bob and the Disney brain. Like they're going to make sure this is up to standard, probably higher than even what we have in the States, I think, because of how much of a microscope is on this project.
I agree with you on that. So we got to start winding down our Disney conversation with Disneyland's massive 70th anniversary celebration. Over the past couple of years, I've actually been leaning toward, I think my 2023 trip to Disneyland, the Disneyland Resort, actually moved me to prefer that because there's still parts of Walt's magic is still there. There's still more of Walt's legacy still intact. It's not being like torn apart or like having heartbreaking closures.
Yeah.
With Disneyland, this was Walt's baby, and we know that Disney said Disneyland is supposed to evolve and change over time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of your favorite memories from your time at the original Disney theme park?
Yeah, I have two that come to mind immediately personally. Back at the 60th for the Diamond Celebration, those are some of my earliest Disneyland memories. Just like watching the Paint the Night Parade and playing the boardwalk games at the former Paradise Pier. And then most recently, this last August, for D23 Expo, D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan Event, whatever they officially call it now. There's so many different names. But yeah, just like being there on my birthday for D23 day, and that was like the day I hit 10,000 followers on Twitter. It was like just like this crazy moment where I got a last minute media invite like 2 weeks out. I made the trip happen. I had some friends who literally let me stay with them at a hotel last minute. It was just one of those everything worked out moments. So being there on my birthday was really cool, but just like being there for coverage, just like share what was happening with everyone, and that whole like cavalcade with Tony Baxter was awesome. And I think like getting a little tour of like even like the show floor at the convention center, like being connected to, Disneyland. And that was like where we kind of got the first big details for the Avengers ride coming to Avengers Campus, Avengers Infinity Defense. So yeah, the 60th celebration and D23 last year, those are my definite highlights. And I'm very excited to make it out for the 70th, before it ends next summer.
I agree completely because I would love to go down there just to make a celebration and everything. But also, last question, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Where can my audience find your coverage of all things Disney, and where can it connect with you on social media?
Yeah, so I've been expanding my content recently. In full transparency, I think like my main one has been Twitter. I don't like to call it X. I just like to call it Twitter. But yeah, I mean Twitter at Drew Disney Dude. That's probably my main one right now, where people know me from. But I've been posting more on YouTube as well, at Drew the Disney Dude on YouTube, on Instagram at Drew the Disney Dude. But I think I'm also going to start posting on Facebook, Threads, TikTok. So pretty much all the major platforms, Drew the Disney Dude. That's where you can find me, and I'll definitely be doing more going forward.
Alrighty, guys. If you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. Now, if you guys want to find my original interview of Drew and my takes on Disney, visit jakes-shake.com, the blog that started all, jakes-shake.com. And it's official. The Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast is a 2025 American Business Award winner. So thank you so much to all of the American Business Award judges that gave me this silver distinction in the best interview and talk show category. Drew, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I always love hearing your takes, and you are also amazing. And I cannot wait to see how you continue to evolve and grow as a content creator.
I appreciate you. Yeah, those are very kind words to say, and I do my best to just share the stuff at the best level that I can. So it's always fun for me to actually be able to like talk to someone about it. I think that my biggest issue with Twitter is people think they know who I am based on my content, but like until you actually hear me talk, you're not going to really know who I am. I mean, even like a 50-minute conversation, I don't even think is enough. That's why whenever people say hi in person, I always like to actually talk to them, because I'm not just this little profile picture on social media. I promise I have my own thoughts, and I'm not always positive.
Same with me. But guys, you'll get to hear more of Drew. You always have a welcome invitation on this podcast. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great everyone. Goodbye.